except where them hands, where them holes, where them throws, you know what I'm saying? Cecil.
I thought about making this a what is the best style to use during something like this if you have to defend yourself in the midst of something like a COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak. I was going to go there, but I decided no, I'm going to take a different approach because there really is no best style to use. There are techniques that would certainly, in my opinion, be better than others, depending on what type of situation you find yourself in. And not only that, a lot of people really don't know what their whole style entails anyway. And I'm just going to be look like I'm style bashing if I do that. So rather than talk about what style to use, I'm going to talk about what techniques I recommend that you use, what types of techniques. And most of these techniques can be found in my system. I would say the only exception would be firearms, but I tell people to go shoot a gun once they get up in the eighth, ninth, 10th degrees, which I technically haven't even reached in my own system, but I already know how to use a firearm, so there's no kind of disconnect there. So let's go with what is the absolute, in my opinion, best technique though that you can use to protect yourself if you may be in a self-defense situation during a coronavirus outbreak. That first technique, first and foremost, I don't care what anybody says, would be awareness and avoidance. I'm not just talking about being unaware and avoiding the virus itself. The CDC, the .gov organizations, medical professionals have definitely been bombarding the media with that. So if you don't have any idea of how to keep from getting the virus itself at this point, at the time of this video, that's pretty much on you. You really have not been paying attention. I'm sorry. Now, I know there's some things that are changing where people are saying it's airborne, it's not airborne, and all that type of thing. But the consensus is out about washing your hands and maintaining social distancing. So I don't really need to go into that. But what we do need to take into consideration is the factor of social distancing. Anytime you're going to be doing a martial art, we're talking about hand-to-hand combat, you're going to be less than 6 feet away. So if you get that close to somebody and somebody's attacking you and they could be infected, you run a high risk of infection if you have to get into any type of what we think of as martial arts conflict with someone anyway. So that's why the best technique to use would be avoidance. Stay away, stay clear. Look at your pre-attack indicators. If you don't know what those are, Google them. I can recommend Mark Mac Young's website, but just Google it. Look for signs that people are going to attack. Listen to their voice. See if you're in a stressful situation, you need to try to diffuse it as much as possible. This is the time where the best techniques that you have is if you're a Taekwondoan are your tenets: courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit. Particularly courtesy, being nice to people. Everybody's on edge, so that you don't provoke them to want to attack you. Integrity, don't do things that make you look like you're hoarding, or don't hoard, so that might make somebody angry at you. Self control. Try not to contribute any negativity to what's going on in these tense times, in these situations where everybody is worried, nervous, scared, you know, on edge. Persevere through these, have your self control, and your indomitable spirit of don't give up. Stay strong, take care of yourself. The better you take care of yourself physically, getting rest, that type of thing, that's going to go a long way to your mental clarity. So just avoid. Practice the social distancing. If you're going out someplace, look around and see who's around. Really trust your instincts at a time like this. If something looks off, something feels off, somebody looks off, if things don't feel right now, just err on the side of caution. Just err on the side of caution. Prevent. Prevent. Don't escalate. Now is not the time for your ego. Okay. But if push comes to shove and you just can't avoid something, I would say this is a good time for you to think about using your most distant weapons that you have. That means if you actually have an actual weapon, you could use that. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to go right to the firearm. But you know, if you've got a if you got permit if you got a concealed carry permit, you probably already have training that will really be beyond the scope of my expertise, where you know what you need to do and how to handle use of force with your weapon. Okay, so I'm not going to cover that. That's not my forte, even though I do know how to do it because I've looked into it for myself. But that's not something I build myself as teaching. So I'm just going to, with that also, point you in the direction of people who know. Look at your Andrew Bronca websites or just look up concealed carry and use of force laws. Remember, though, the gun is typically a distance weapon. So if push comes to shove where you have to pull that out, they should be far enough away from you where you're not breaking social distance. Because if they're close enough to touch you, they're close enough to keep you from getting your weapon out for you to use against them. So now that being said, let's get even closer in body contact. Cane. A lot of people walk around with a cane. Why don't you try to use a cane? Or just, if you have a walking stick or some type of small stick. Again, if you're close enough though to where you may have to swing a weapon at somebody, at that point you're too close. You're exposing yourself, in my opinion, to the virus anyway. So the best thing you would want to do, if it ever came to that, you would want to be striking and maintaining your distance. That would go with a cane. That would be your longest weapon. Your longest weapon after that is going to be your legs. So now this is a time where those of you who've poo-pooed on why do I need to learn how to kick? Why do I need to learn how to kick? Kicking is for the birds. This would be a good time, if you are a kicker, for you to have some comfort in your kicking, even though, again, my leg is not 6 feet long. I don't believe my leg is 6 feet long because that's about half my body. My leg might be 3 feet long, or 3 or 4 feet long. I got pretty long legs, probably 3.5 feet. But my leg is not 6 feet long, and you need 6 feet distance to have a minimal chance of catching the coronavirus. So if you have to mix it up with somebody and you can't get away from them, you may want to try to go to your kicks. From there, go to your punching. Move around in a circle around a person if you have to, if it's just one. If it's more than one, this may be a good time for you to try to run. Try to use some type of tactics to where you get them to fall all over each other. But if it's a one-on-one, what we think of as a martial arts fight, I'm going to keep saying it. I can't stress this enough. This is definitely not the time to be doing it. But if you have to do it, I would say go to your striking. Next point. So let's get even closer. The closest you should try to get to anybody if you just can't get away from it. A lot of people like to call this clinch range. I'm just saying, your throws. You're standing, grappling. This is not a time for you to try to go to the ground, in my opinion. But I understand you could be trying to get that last roll of toilet paper. And even if you try to let go of that last roll of toilet paper, to let that other person have that last roll of toilet paper, and they still going to go off and try to attack you because they think you're trying to keep that last roll of toilet paper, you may have to go to grappling. I would highly recommend not going to the ground or going that far. I would say just try to throw or just try to push them away and keep them back. Okay? Or just run or just move away. Anything with your joint locks, anything with your pins, anything where you're working from your back, anything like that, anything that what we think jiu-jitsu is, what we think judo is, even though especially those arts are wider than that, but we just like to think an art is what it is in contest. You don't want to do that during a pandemic, in my opinion, okay? Because I'm of the opinion that the closer that you have to get to somebody physically, the greater the chance of you getting it. Keep in mind, though, I'm not a doctor. I am just a part-time martial arts instructor giving his opinion on YouTube. Okay. So having said all that, what other type of techniques or tactics can we use? We talked about avoidance. This is something I used to do when I really had little or no training. And that's one thing is, if somebody's really coming at me, Throw stuff at them. Pick up something on the ground and throw it at them. Something from the ground. If you were in a store, just start throwing stuff at them. If you think they're going to come at you aggressively, to keep distance, man, you better pick up some stuff and just chuck it at them. And as soon as they cover up their face and their eyes because they don't want stuff to hit and they pause, then you escape. I am still not above throwing something at you to get you mentally off balance and running. Now, doing that, that's a little bit of mental judo because that's you're getting them off balance mentally. That's kazushi. So you kazushi them, you get them mentally off balance, and then you don't fit in, you fit into your running posture. You're securing and you cock out of there by executing the run and get away from them and hide, man. Call me a coward. I don't care. I don't care how many stripes or whatever on the belt, found in my own system, whatever. Sometimes the simplest approach is just work, man. Just throw something at them. If you can't talk this person down, you've tried avoiding them, and then you can't talk them down, and they just hell bent on coming at you, and they close it in, man. Throw something. Throw something at them. Do stuff like that. If there are any cops nearby, go stand near a cop. Now, I know some of us who tend to have been, as minorities, targeted by the police. We may be a little reluctant to go stand near the police for some protection. But see, I have actually done this, okay? I've done this when I was young, okay? In the primary group of, let's say, where we think police officers may want to bother an individual like myself. I've done that. I've stood near a cop, and we need a cop, and this is what happens. First, the cop is looking at me because he's socially conditioned to think that I'm up to something. But that's still the cop paying attention. Then he looks at me, and then when the aggressive troublemaker, if they're this far off balance, they're probably going to try to do something in front of the police officer. So they're either going to back off if they're not going to do something in front of a police officer, or if they're really just mentally lost, spiritually lost. They'll try to do something in front of a police officer, and the police officer goes, wait a minute. Oh, that's not the troublemaker. This person's the troublemaker. And then they'll jump on that person and handle that person. And you're blameless. So that's another tactic that you can use too. So in a nutshell, if you want to know what martial arts techniques to use, this is not the time for clinch work, in my opinion, or knees and elbows. This is the time for distance. Your overall best technique would be to avoid getting involved with people in the first place where it has to go physical at all. Paying attention to your surroundings. But above all, at this time, people are tired of being cooped up in the house. People are worried about getting a disease. People may be tired because they're working extra shifts because they're on the front lines of this thing. Not everybody has the luxury of being able to work from home. Some people who may have the luxury of working from home could still be tired and stressed because they may have to put in more hours to make up for the individuals in their organization that could be sick. They could have just gotten a phone call from a distant relative or something that the person's in trouble from this virus. And in their grief, they could be short and hostile. So this is a good time for you to inject. I'm not saying try to go out there with flowers in your hair and holding hands and singing Kumbaya. Well, we're not supposed to be holding hands always. See, there I go. We're not supposed to be holding hands. We're singing Kumbaya from 6 feet away, right? No. Try to keep your wits about you. I'm not going to say try. Keep your wits about you. Respect. You respect other people. They respect you. Even if somebody tries to start being a little disrespectful, don't feed into the feedback loop. And this is another thing. See, if you want an approach too that you have to use, if you have to use where you just can't get away from the person, like I said, if you've tried throwing stuff at them, maybe you don't have a weapon that you can use, you can't poke them away with a cane. If there's something that we do practice in traditional martial arts that would tell you the best approach to have, it will be what we call one-step sparring. Now, I delved into this in the psychology of one-step sparring video, where I said the down block and yell that the attacker does is like a symbol of the pre-attack indication. But a lot of times, conflicts can't escalate without our consent. That's when you down block and yell. That's you giving consent for the attack. And then they come in with the attack. I know we look at it, we take it literally, we go, this is just a freeze frame type thing. But think about the principle of the exercise. It shows Somebody gives off a warning before they're going to attack me. They may not attack me a lot of times if I don't consent. And then if I consent and then when they attack, I want to finish this encounter as quickly as possible. So that's why it's kia, and then you yell back kia, and then they throw one punch, and then you move out the way, intercept it, block or parry, hit one time, throw one time, don't go down. Don't go down trying to pin him if you don't have to. Hit one time and back away. That type of one-step approach, if it does really come physical, would be a good way for you to minimize exposure to the virus that they may have. Because see, now we're talking about self-defense here. This is not a time to be trying to ego spar with anyone that you don't need to ego spar with when we're talking about a pandemic. You know it's not the time for that when all across the country at the time of this video, martial arts gyms are being shut down. They're not considered essential. We don't want to spread the virus. My park and rec classes are not going on right now. We need to shut that down. We don't want to spread the virus. So if we're being told by society to stay home to maintain distance, that should clue you in right there that you should not try to get into any type of tussle with anybody unless it's just like you just absolutely, positively couldn't avoid it. Okay? You know, like you're walking around a corner. You just got to pay attention. If you're walking around a corner of those supermarkets and somebody runs into you and just runs up and just starts hitting you like a maniac. Okay? That should be the only way that you will get into a fight with anybody at this point. If you live with somebody that's attacking you all the time, and it's not because they just have uncontrollable mental problems, but they're just violent towards you, and you roll snake eyes and pick somebody, then you got some relationship problems that you need to work out, my friend. Okay? So I think I made it clear. Now is not the time to be getting into any type of tussles or anything with anyone. The best technique of all that you can use right now is avoid. And from there, you try to stay as far away from the person as possible. You only want to go to the ground and grapple in the midst of a pandemic if it just happens. Okay? And if you notice with a lot of your lower level judo pins, how are you turned? Your face is turned away from uke, isn't it? Your face is turned away from the person that you pinning. So don't be looking at them if you have to pin them. You pin them and you turn your head away so you don't breathe in anything that they may have. And on that note, thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this with people that talk about the martial arts. I'm telling you, now is not the time to be up close and personal. You do not get into any fights with anybody over anything if you don't have to. Now's not the time for it. And peace, and thank you for your time.